filmmaking point, there's still photographs where the arm was slowly moved, all the...
Yes.
That's very, very clever. Was that all done in Toronto?
It was. I don't know whether it was a lack of faith in whether the story was good enough by itself, but I also felt that I wanted to express myself artistically, and I thought, why not because I don't like talking heads. I'm probably in the minority, but I don't like documentaries that cut away to some guy at a desk with a potted plant and his calendar on the wall behind him, and you're looking, and is that the month of June on his... I don't like those kind of cutaway talking heads, so it was important to me to incorporate live action, motion graphics, 2.5 3D, but also stock footage, movie and television show clips, home video, everything.
But the clearance rights on that, who did you go around and clear all the clips and all the music? Or?
The movie has been cleared 100%. It's a sad commentary, really, in today's world when a filmmaker says that the most important member of the crew and the first person they hired 6 years ago is their attorney in Beverly Hills. But we have an activist attorney. If you believe the media conglomerates, including Sony and anybody else, you're left with the impression that you're not allowed to do anything. You're not allowed to go to the bathroom without their permission. But there's something enshrined in copyright law. It's known as fair use in the US, fair dealing in the UK, fair dealing in Canada. And as documentary filmmakers, we are allowed, it's enshrined in copyright law, 4 pillars of copyright law. Fair use incorporates education, historic, parody, and criticism. And so long as your use of copyrighted material is A, reasonable, and the courts have never defined what reasonable means in terms of length, and B, transformative in nature, then you can use it. Now, that doesn't mean I won't get sued. I expect to get sued, but I have a defense and I have the best lawyer in the world, so I hope they sue me because I can make great PR hay with a lawsuit. The movie the Cash family doesn't want you to see.
Do you think did the Cash family know about this?
They do, and I'm joking. I don't think that...
I don't think they would take offense to you.
Barring some people who work for the estate, who have personal axes to grind, as a Canadian, and it is true, we are polite. Usually I apologize before the movie.
Jonathan, do you know how you make a Canadian apologize? Just step on their foot.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My foot got under your foot.
Yeah.
But usually, and Scott Atkinson, I need to welcome a few people here, but Scott Atkinson usually will remember this. I'll come out at the beginning and apologize for how bad my narration is in this movie. And the fact is, however, that I question some reviewers, which is un-Canadian, being it's my first film, but who say my voiceover is stilted and as if I could hire or resurrect Sir John Gielgud to do it. This is a first-person documentary. If you want a true story, you've got to put up with a non-actor telling it to you.
That worked for me. After the first little bit, that's Jonathan, and he's speaking, and this is his dad, and it's you. I would totally disagree with that. I really would.
Thank you. I'll give you the
What do you guys
addresses of
think?
the reviewers.
There we go.
We can write to those reviewers who disagree.
But speaking of reviewers, you told me a little whisper earlier this afternoon about a certain review in New York. Do you want to tell us about that?
I'm very pleased. Today is an auspicious occasion. Not only am I enjoying my international premiere in London, England, having been born and raised in London, Ontario, which you probably noticed. In fact, as a quick aside, you saw a lot of telegrams and typewritten letters.
Yeah.
And those of us old enough to remember, this was before it was easy to make a long-distance call. You needed 2 operators to connect you, and it cost a fortune. So Saul and Johnny would correspond in this manner. However, Saul used to say that a lot of telegrams from Johnny to Saul went missing and ended up in London, England, because the Americans didn't know there was a London in Canada.
That's funny.
I've already forgotten your question, though.
Oh, you reviewer, journalist?
Oh, yes.
New York?
This is an auspicious occasion. Not only am I enjoying my international premiere with friends who I will introduce in a moment. But today, the Village Voice printed not one but two huge and glowing reviews, one by their chief music critic and another by their chief film critic. And I could not have written a more positive review for this film. And as a Canadian and as members of the UK, you can appreciate that you need that one review in New York City to give you credibility.
Was it a good review?
It was better than I could have written myself.
Really?
Yeah.
And what was the occasion of the review?
We have our U.S. premiere this Friday in New York.
Wow. I think that deserves another big round of applause. Thank you, Jonathan. Wow.
Thank you. And if I may, I'd like to quickly welcome a few people.
Yes, of course.
And just before I do, I want to thank Raindance ever so much for this invitation, starting first and foremost, of course, with Mr. Grove, but also I'd like to thank Marion and Lucy and all the rest of the people who have
Suzanne,
helped.
the programmer, who found that.
I have not met Suzanne yet.
Oh, you will.
I thought for sure she was doing the Q&A.
Yeah.
I would also like to welcome a member of my crew and his girlfriend, Scott Atkinson, our story editor, and his girlfriend Sue are up there.
Yay.
And,
well done.
and lastly, but certainly not least, we have a special guest in the audience tonight and his wife, Mr. Peter Lurie and his wife Carol. Peter is the founder publisher of the most read Johnny Cash publication in the world, published here in London.
Wow.
Called The Man in Black Fanzine, which has subscribers all over the world and has been published for 18 years. And Mr. Lurie was kind enough to bring with him tonight copies of an interview he did with me in a printed issue, which you all may have one of as you're exiting tonight. Is that okay, Peter?
Yeah,
Peter, would you please stand up for a moment and just Peter Lurie. Following Johnny Cash's career when I was still in diapers.
Yeah, and we're having another screening on, is it Friday?
Friday, yes.
Friday at
4.
4 o'clock, so please tweet and Facebook and all that. And really moving. I'll remember this tomorrow morning.
Thank you. A
Yeah.
lot of people say they need to think about it for a couple of days.
After the Afghani horror film that I have to watch next.
Well, at least you'll have some kind of contrast there.
Good. Anyone have a question?
What was it shot on? Was it shot
35 millimeter.
Yeah.
I didn't want to risk it looking like America's Most Wanted. I don't know if you know that show, but dramatic recreations, even if they're no dialogue recreations, are easy to screw up.
Yeah.
And I felt that unless the audience came along with me on this journey and suspended their disbelief, I was dead. And the easiest way to screw it up would be to screw up the recreations. Everything else you can almost control beyond the writing and directing, of course. But the live action had to look period, had to have that depth of field. And I hope you agree that they're beautiful to look at.
Sorry about the microphone.
No problem.
I thought the recreations were integrated seamlessly into the. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
There's another, just before I take the question in the last row, another note of perhaps interest. My brother was so upset that my father killed himself. His reaction was to change his last name legally to Robinson, our mother's maiden name.
Huh.
So when you see, I don't know how many Johnnies you saw tonight, but there were 2.
Mm-hmm.
But there were 4 Sauls. And the Saul at 40 is played by my brother, but no one knows it because he's credited as Robinson. So at every screening we've gone to, someone has sought me out in the lobby and said, how did you find these guys? Particularly the guy who played your father at 40 looks exactly like all the photographs that are juxtaposed with the live action. And I said, easy, he's my baby brother and he looks just like my father. There was a question in the back?
I just wanted to ask, obviously it's a lot of work that's been put in there, and it's taken you 6 years. Just wanted to know what the budget was.
Well, thank you for your question. As Elliot knows all too well, it's a question that for whatever reason, filmmakers are warned never to answer in public. I think it has something to do with weakening your hand when you're negotiating with distributors. So my answer is this: the movie cost me my marriage and a trip to the hospital. But I can tell you, it was significantly more than $1 million,
Yeah.
which is big by. Very big by documentary standards, very small by Hollywood standards.
Yeah, and this could work as a feature. I mean, as a narrative feature, it's billed here as a documentary, but the fact that it's your true life story is, I think, incidental. I think, again, I'm not saying this as any sort of platitude because I'm not here, but that's what I really feel. What do you people feel?
It's theatrical, yes.
Yeah, if you saw this, My Father and Man in Black, like as a movie billboard, not as a documentary, I think I might be tempted to go and see it. Or certainly if I went and saw it like that, not knowing it was at a film festival, I would tell my mates, go see this movie, not go see this documentary.
Well, thank you. That's music to my ears. Conversely, I think it's important to note that a lot of documentary film festivals have passed on us because they believe it's docudrama. And that's the irony here. Not a single word in this movie was manufactured. Not a single scene or situation was manufactured. If you saw the 500 credits, you know that everything has been annotated and vetted by attorneys. Yet, this is a case where truth is stranger than fiction. The documentary film festivals say there's no way that wasn't made up here, there, and everywhere, and they're calling it docudrama. But please do see a movie like this in a theater, to Elliot's point. And it's interesting to note, a few years ago, as we both know, and many of you know, I was an agent in Hollywood, we used to have to spend tens of thousands of dollars for information about demographics. And along comes YouTube. So you look at our trailer on YouTube, and you can see that the audience predominantly for our trailer is the UK, including, of course, Scotland, Ireland, Germany, Australia, Japan, and for Denmark, and for some reason, Czechoslovakia. So cash is huge in Europe, and we could have a limited release, I suppose, theatrically in Europe.
But don't use the word cash in Europe outside of the musical context, because there's certain bankers and politicians that might get worried.
Exactly. I've got it. The dollar is falling.
The euro is falling. The pound is falling. Anyone else? We got time for 2 more quick questions.
Where do you see your next film? What do you see yourself as now?
A comedy. Actually, and forgive me if this sounds too cute, but I have, having spent 18 years in Hollywood, I have rather cynical, superficial friends who say, use this as a calling card. If you don't direct a low-budget Hollywood feature, direct dramatic episodic television. I raised the money for this movie from family and friends. I have a fiduciary they'll kill me if I don't make their money back. So for the next 5 years, I'm going door to door, to each and every one of your homes, selling this DVD to you until I can make the money back. That's what I'm doing next.
But that's what your dad did as a kid, except he was selling vegetables.
Exactly. Exactly. Any other questions before I give Elliot his gift? Because I want to show you guys what it is.
Oh my God.
We want to see the game.
Yeah, good.
Okay. Would you please open this and conceal it from the audience temporarily?
Got a really nice.
Mics are round, they roll.
Yeah. Oh right.
It's still rolling.
Jonathan, this is so sweet. I didn't get you anything.
You got me an international premiere.
I will be singing the praises of your film long after you leave this expensive, dirty city.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. We need all the help we can get. Word of mouth, please join us on Facebook. There are postcards on the... Yes.
I'll see the microphone.
Yay. This is not good.
We are
Don't
electric.
take that outside.
Yeah, I'll take that for you.
Well, I can see what this is, and unless I...
Oh, it's dislodged from the
no,
travel.
it's okay. I can
Let me see if I can relaunch it. Oh, it's dislodged. This came all the way from North America, but
I can fix that.
this is a gift for you, sir, and please imagine it properly framed. But this is something that, and Peter will appreciate this, because the Cash family has never seen this mugshot. It has never been published. And the reason why is that the first time Johnny went to Folsom Prison, my father was with him, was not when they recorded the album in 1968, but it was in November 1966, just a few short months after Cash was arrested for smuggling prescription medication across the Mexican border. His face was in a bunch of newspapers. And when Johnny and Saul showed up at Folsom, the guards at Folsom said, "Hey, Cash, you're such a bad boy. Let's have a little fun with you. Why don't you sit for a mugshot?" So Johnny Cash sat for a Folsom Prison mugshot. And while you can't see it, there is a slate under the right pane that has his name, the date, and Folsom Prison.
God.
This is a limited copy of a 4x6 Polaroid that I found in my father's storage locker.
Wow.
And the first copy was given to today's warden at Folsom Prison when I was there to shoot some footage. His jaw dropped. He said the only way he could tell that Cash was not incarcerated was because there's no prisoner number. And I said, "Well, what do you mean? I mean, obviously he wasn't." He said, "No, you don't get it. I've never heard of a case in U.S. history where a private citizen sat for a mugshot at a maximum security prison, and if it happened today, the people involved would all be fired and charged."
No.
So this is for you, and it should
Wow.
make great dinner conversation
It will.
once it gets properly
Yeah, well,
oriented.
I can easily fix it. Well,
That's
Jonathan...
British Airways for you. It got knocked around on the
Yeah,
plane.
yeah. Oh, Jonathan, I'm thrilled. I'm just so moved by this, and I'm so delighted you agreed to bring this wonderful treasure to London. And for debut filmmaker, it's amazing.
Thank you, everybody.